I have a very loud voice in the back of my head that says to quit. Some of my best things in my life and in my business have come from the worst times. It's really easy to find all the negatives, but if you're never going to turn it around and take action, then you're always going to be languishing wherever you are at and not progressing forward. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are talking about the features that will make or break you as a business owner. Now, before we get into the episode, if you are a gym owner, I want to make sure you are on our Facebook group, which is Cheer Gym Owners on Facebook. And if you are a coach or an owner coach, make sure you are in All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners Facebook group as well. There's a lot of great conversations that happen over there in those groups, and I want to make sure you don't miss it. And make sure that if you are listening to this prior to 2025, you are getting registered for our conference in Las Vegas, January 3rd through the 5th in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We're staying at the Harrah's. It's a great hotel. We're going to be running our conference there, and we have coaches tracks, managers tracks, and owners tracks. So you're not going to want to miss that one. It is the best way to kick off 2025 and make sure you're starting the new year on the right foot. Now, we're going to be getting into the key attributes of a great gym owner and the things that you need to nurture if you are a gym owner and maybe don't feel like you exhibit these in everyday life. Now, this came up because being a great owner is something I am always trying to get better at. I currently own 3 different companies, and those 3 different companies are all within the cheer world, but they cover the gamut. And with those 3 companies, I have over 60 employees that I work with throughout the year, and it's a challenge. And being a business owner is not for everyone. In fact, I started to really think about this last night. Last night, I was getting together with a group of guys that I deployed with. These were all veterans of our deployment to Iraq, and they get together once a year, and I haven't been able to make it for a while. And I was able to make it this year, and I got the opportunity to see all these men that I went to war with. And I had the opportunity to lead overseas in a combat deployment. Now, we didn't see a lot of combat. That wasn't really what we were doing. We were doing convoy security operations. So we basically drove around and tried not to get blown up, which our company was actually pretty good at. We did have some contact and things like that, but overall, we didn't lose any soldiers to enemy contact. And was even talking to one of my buddies about how we actually didn't lose anyone until we came back to the States, was where we saw we lost some guys to suicide, to drug overdoses, to some other things like that. So catching up with all of them and hearing where all of them were at, they're all like, "Hey, sir, where are you? What are you doing?" Because I've always been a police officer. Getting to talk to them about, what it was like to be an owner of a business. None of them were owners of businesses. One owned a restaurant for a little while, and it was interesting trying to describe what it's like to be a business owner because it's very different. It's not what most people think of. And especially, they're like, "Oh, you got your cheer thing." And they don't really think of it as like a legitimate business. And, they're like, "Oh, you coach cheer. That's cool." Trying to explain to them how much more it is than that got me really thinking about, why is it that some people gravitate towards owning businesses, and why is it that some people are successful and some people are not? And I wanted to dive into some of the key traits to being a great business owner. And this is for anyone who is currently a gym owner or anyone who's considering being a gym owner. And if you're considering being a business owner and opening a business, I want you to really think and listen to this and say, are these the attributes that I have? Is this the right fit for me? Because here's the harsh reality, you guys. It's not for everybody. Not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Not everyone should open a business. Not everyone should own their own business because there are a lot of things about it that are unavoidable. No matter what people tell you, no matter what podcast you listen to, no matter what influencer you follow, there are some things that cannot be avoided about being an entrepreneur. So I want to get into some of the things that I think are really necessary for being a great gym owner and being a great entrepreneur. Number 1 is you have to have a level of grit and determination that many people don't have. And what I mean by that is being a gym owner is really hard. Being an entrepreneur is really hard. It is not an easy road to go. And you are going to have really tough days, weeks, months, and even years. And you have to have the grit and the determination not to quit and to keep going and to keep taking that next step forward, even though you might be essentially failing. You have to be able to manage that and work within those challenges to grow and get better and not give up. If you have a tendency to want to be comfortable, if you don't seek out discomfort, if that's not something that you're comfortable with, if you are not comfortable with the idea that you are going to be working many, many, many hours for potentially no pay. It's a very delayed gratification being a business owner, being an entrepreneur. If you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to withstand or feel like you're capable of it, like mentally it's just too draining on you, then I would encourage you not to go down that path, because you have to be mentally tough to be a business owner. You just really do. Now, maybe you get lucky and maybe you don't need any of that mental toughness, but I have never met any business owner who didn't have to be tough at some point in time mentally, where they did not have that ability to kind of weather the storm, because the storms will come. And the reality is that life is just hard. But if you need that consistency, that like, hey, I show up, I do my job, I get paid for that hour of work, I know I have that consistency and that stability, and you're not comfortable with being in a somewhat tenuous environment, then being an entrepreneur might not be you, because the best entrepreneurs are able to weather that storm. And they're actually able to take those moments and go, okay, this is actually good because I'm learning in this moment. There's something I'm getting out of this that is beneficial. And some of my best things in my life and in my business have come from the worst times, come from the hardest times that have led to exponential growth, because I had no choice, because I was in that moment and it was either quit or get better. And for some reason, be it, I think, values that were instilled for me by my parents and by my gymnastics coach, that was just not really in my mantra. I have the voice in the back of my head. I will tell you guys, I have a very loud voice in the back of my head that says to quit. There is that voice that's like, you're not good enough. You're a failure. You should quit. You should give up. That voice is really loud for me. And I know for some people it's not very loud. And I joke around and I'm like, I'm awesome. And I give this outward exterior of being overly confident. And I'm actually not. It's just something I've forced myself to do. And to some extent, I'm kind of playing that character of the very confident business owner sometimes, where I have the self-doubt. I have the imposter syndrome. I have to actively kill that voice in the back of my head daily when I feel like I am not succeeding. So you have to be able to overcome that. You have to be able to have that grit and push past those things. So that's number one, is you've got to have a grit beyond what most people are capable of. Number two is you have to be okay being alone. And this is the harsh reality of being a leader. Being a leader is a lonely position. Everyone wants to be in charge and be a leader until they realize what that means. And what that means is you have to do things that others are not doing, which means you're oftentimes doing them by yourself. You are going to delegate those tasks that are done within a team and that are easily doable. And then you're going to have to do the things that no one else can do. And oftentimes that means you're doing it by yourself. Comfortable being alone is just part of the requirements of being a great entrepreneur. You have to be willing to do that. And I thought a lot about this summer, because my summers are like the perfect example of how lonely it is to be the boss when you're surrounded by a bunch of people. So in the summers with dream camps, at any given time, I'll have 30 plus staff members at camp teaching, and they're instructing. And then on top of that, we had camps with over 350 athletes and coaches and different people there. And they all needed me, right? I was all very important to the day-to-day operation, which I'm actually working myself out of. But I found myself, on the daily, just feeling very, very lonely. Like I didn't have anyone to really talk to about the things I was doing. And everything was take. Right? Dan, we need this piece of information. Hey, here's a problem. Here's an issue. Here's a fire. And that can become very taxing, and it can feel very much like you are alone on a mountain. And that is the reality of being a business owner. Now you're going to have your crew, you're going to have your people, you're going to have those people that you can go to, but ultimately you have to be comfortable being alone and being the person to make that tough decision, being able to be that person who in the moment is like, at the end of the day, it all stops with me. And that is a really difficult position. And I first had a lot of experience with this in the military. And this kind of harkens back to the guys that I was hanging out with. I was the executive officer of our company, and being an XO in combat zone and just being an XO in general is like one of the kind of worst jobs in the military as an officer. The best job is being a platoon leader. It's like so much fun. You're with your guys, you're out there doing the work. And being an XO is administrative. And oftentimes it's your job to track all of the things that everyone hates. It's not fun. It's like, did you do your maintenance? Did we do our inventories and our supply checklists? And did we follow the protocols? And like all of that, just like redundant stuff that guys don't like. And it's your job to hold people's feet to the fire. And it can feel very lonely. In fact, my deployment was really lonely. I had like 4 or 5 guys that I was pretty close to and I could hang out with. And they were the ones who were capable of being like, hey, you're the XO at work, and then we can hang out and play video games and chat, and not have it be always, you're the person in charge. But ultimately I always was, right? At the end of the day, if anything ever happened, it fell back to me. And so it can feel very lonely. I got a lot of experience with that there. And then it's just kind of continued as I've owned my different businesses. But it's crazy to be in a situation like where I'm at camp, where I'm surrounded by 30 plus people that all would arguably tell you that they care for me and they love me, but I'm their friend versus a lot more than they're my friend, right? They come to me with all their problems. I don't go to them with my problems, except for, hey, we've got this issue that I need your help with fixing, but I'm not going to them with my personal issues or my challenges or those kind of things. That's just not the role. And so you have to be comfortable being alone if you're going to be a great entrepreneur. You just have to be able to do it. And if you can't, then it may not be for you. Now, is that a skill you can learn? Yeah, absolutely. You can get skilled at doing things by yourself and being alone and just kind of being with yourself. That's absolutely a muscle that you can learn to improve, but it's a hard one. It is a really, really tough muscle to build. The next is you have to be able to be a leader. And that kind of goes into the being alone thing. But if you're going to be a business owner, you have to lead. You're going to be leading a team, and it's not necessarily going to be leading in the way that you are potentially used to. So if you were a captain on a cheer team, you're a leader, but it's not that kind of leader. It's the kind of leader like a coach of a team, where you are a part of, but you are also apart from the team. And you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to lead your team, which includes making the right hiring decisions and the right firing decisions. You have to be able to lead by example, to communicate, to set your team up for success. And you have to be constantly growing as a leader and open to that growth, because leadership is one of your number one jobs. If you are the CEO of your company, which most gym owners are, CEO, COO, CFO, CMO, you're all of you're anything that ends in an O, you're in that position, especially for the first few years of your business. So you have to be willing to do that, and you have to be capable of leading. And if that, again, is a muscle that you can build up, you can get better at leadership, but you have to be willing to lead. And if you're someone who wants to sit back in the shadows and you want other people to make decisions, then honestly, being a gym owner might not be the right move for you. It's a really tough road to hoe if you're not willing to lead your company. That ultimately is the role of the entrepreneur. That is the role of the owner and the founder, is you've got to lead and you've got to do the necessary work to move the business forward. The next really important skill is you have to be, I kind of already mentioned it, but you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to make mistakes and learn from them, which kind of goes into, you have to be willing to fail and you have to be open to learning. So I'm going to kind of put those two together. Willing to fail in that you're willing to do the things that you may not be comfortable with, and you're willing to try new things and learn experientially and saying, okay, that didn't work. How do I iterate on this and improve upon it? And then you also have to always be willing and open to learning. You've just got to learn. Learning is the most important thing. Well, the second most important thing. You've got to continually learn from your successes and your failures and constantly be analyzing and seeking out new information. And whether it's reading or listening to books or listening to podcasts or analyzing what you've done, you've got to be able to do those things. You've got to be learning. Now, the next thing, and I mentioned it, learning is the second most important thing. The actual most important thing is taking action. You have to be capable of taking action. You have to be willing to take action, even in the absence of clear direction. If you cannot do that, if you are not an implementer, then you need to figure that out if you want to be a great business owner. The one thing that holds people back so much from what they're capable of doing is the over analysis, the like, well, maybe, but what if, but I don't know. Well, I don't know if I can make that step, and just do it. Just take the action. Take the action and figure it out from there. You 60% of the way, start making moves, start taking action, start doing things. There are so many things that I talk to owners all the time where they're like, oh, I know we need to start a tumbling program, but I don't know. And they keep gathering more and more and more and more information, and they've got endless information. Information abounds, but they don't actually take action. Or they want to start marketing. They know they need to grow their program. And they're like, well, I'm going to keep gathering information. I'm going to keep watching videos. I'm going to keep learning. I know that I should do Facebook marketing, but I'm going to learn a little bit more about it. Now, implement, do something, take action. There are so many different avenues that you can take your business down that you can just jump on. The other day, I messaged one of my employees who I'm relatively close with. She's a great human being, and she's graduated college, and I'm always trying to find the next thing for her because I think she's capable of doing so much, but she has a lot of limiting beliefs. And I texted her the other day and I was like, I just came up with the best business idea. I'm going to give it to you. I'm just going to give it to you. I don't need to be a part of it. I'm just going to give you this idea. And I gave it to her and she was like, I don't know. She would be great at it, and I'm not going to go break down the whole idea. She would have been awesome at it. She absolutely has all of the necessary skills, but she had a million reasons of why not to instead of all the reasons why to. Ultimately, if that's where you default to, then you're going to struggle as a business owner. So it's really easy to find all the negatives, but if you're never going to turn it around and take action, then you're always going to be languishing wherever you are at and not progressing forward. And you have to be willing to take action. If you're going to be a great business owner, you've got to take action and be willing to do it, even in uncomfortable situations. So I've given you a lot of different aspects of being a great business owner. If you have some of them and you need more of them, like I said, there's a number of these that you can get better at, that you can learn how to do, and you can kind of build that muscle up. If you're not actually getting help and getting guidance, though, you're not going to build that muscle up. So this was one of the things that I think was the biggest change in my life. And I've talked about it a bunch of different times. But when I finally realized I didn't need to do it by myself, and I actually needed to get a coach, and I needed to have someone who was teaching me how to do this and holding me accountable, right? A real coach doesn't just teach you. That's a teacher, right? Someone who teaches you a skill, they give you a test, and then they say, yes, check mark, you did it. A coach is someone who not only teaches you, but they hold you accountable. They help you master, they help you implement. When I got a coach and someone to help guide me was when I first started taking major steps in my business to what it is now. And I highly encourage you, if you need help, get help, which is why I want to see you guys come to Vegas, which is why if you're listening to this and you're not a part of the Academy, I would suggest you book a call and learn more about what the Academy is, because it's probably not what you think. I'm actually shocked at how many people still think that by being in our Facebook groups, they're in the Academy. And that's not actually the Academy. That's just our public group. We have a private Academy group that involves getting coached and involves a whole ton of resources and a bunch of different amazing stuff. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that if you are looking to grow. So those are the key things that I think make great owners. And there's so many more. These are just the top ones on the top of my head as I was thinking about this today, and I was driving in and thinking about what I wanted to talk to you guys about. And these are the things that make great owners. And I also wanted to talk to the people who are aspiring gym owners. And I think there's a lot of great ones out there, but there's also a lot of people that get into this, and not that they're bad people, but maybe they're not meant to be an owner. Maybe that's not the route that they need to go down. Maybe they need to find a position as a director, or there's other things. If you don't have some of those qualities, especially honestly, the number one, I know I mentioned it first, if you don't have the ability to push through those hard times, it's not in your nature, and it's okay. It's actually, I respect you more for acknowledging that, hey, when times get tough, maybe you struggle emotionally, with the ability to just kind of push through those things, and they really weigh on you. Like, there are going to be times where everyone in the world feels like they're against you, and they're not, but it's going to feel like that. You're going to have parents that are mad at you and a staff member that's mad at you, and you're going to have broken a kid's heart, or something has happened, or you miss something with the government and now they're, taking, they send you a email saying you owe a bunch of money. There's going to be so many stressors that come across your plate as a business owner that if you are not resilient enough to handle it, and not only handle it, but resilient enough to handle it and continue running your business, you can't shut down. That's really the craziest thing. Like, you can never just turn it off. You can never go, I'm closing all the blinds, I'm putting the blanket over my head, and I'm just ignoring the world today. Now, you can take days off, but you can't just do that for an extended period of time and have the success that you need to have as a business owner. So you've got to have the grit, and you've got to have that determination. And I know this because all of the successful gym owners I know, they have that, or they've cultivated it. They've forced themselves to have it. Now, like I said, it's something you can learn, but that one's probably the hardest one to learn. So if you are a business owner, I hope you got something out of this, maybe even just some validation of like, yeah, I do have that. And sometimes you just need to remind yourself you do have it. Like, and you're not alone going through the hard times that you're going through. Every single business owner goes through tough times. Every single gym goes through tough times. It is inevitable. So like, keep pushing, keep striving, keep getting better every single day, because if you do that, you will eventually get to your goal. And actually, I'm going to add one last one, because I didn't script this out ahead of time. You have to be willing to delay your gratification. Owning a business and having success in your business is a long game. Yes, there are people who are overnight successes. Some people might even say that I was an overnight success. I wasn't. I've been at this for a very long time. It's been many, 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 many years getting to this point where we are at within our gym and within our other companies. Not a single one of my companies is less than 5 years old. That it's taken a lot of time to get to where we are. So people might look at Next Gen or look at Dream Camps and be like, overnight successes. Well, Next Gen's been around for 6 years. We've been working really hard and at an incredible tempo to get to where we are. And with Dream Camps, it's technically existed for 9 years. Yes, we've started to expand rapidly in the last 3, but that is because we did the work and we started small and we grew and we grew and we grew. And we finally were at a point where it was like, it's time for the next step. And even then I was resistant to it. And I just had some friends who were like, just do it, man. And I was like, you know what? Why am I waiting? What do I have to lose? A little bit of money. Let's go. And we did. And it was absolutely worth it. It was worth the jump. So thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you get registered for our conference in Vegas in January. I want to see you there. If I've never met you before, you've never been to one of our conferences and you are there, please come talk to me. Come introduce yourself. If you listen to the podcast, it means the world to me when I talk to people and they're like, I listen to every episode. Thank you so much. And obviously, if you have critiques too, please send them my way. I always grow from those critiques as well. But I really appreciate you. I appreciate you listening. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode.